I am live. I am live. I am live. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Hello, hello, hello to everybody. And those that are attending, well, let's just say they're a tad tardy or they can't make it, which is okay. I know some of them have appointments and things that they're busy with. So it's all good. It's all good. I shall be my own attendant today, which is quite fun, which is quite fun. I know someone is having connectivity problems. It's all good. But this gives me an opportunity to just recap a little bit here and just to make the key point here that this is, I'm going through a course. It's a free course. Anybody can do this course, right? You can come on at any time and join. It doesn't matter. There's no, it doesn't mean that we've started and, oh, I must start. No, you can join at any time because as you do the course, you're going to do it at your own pace anyway, right? So there's no fixed pacing to this. And so different people go at different paces because of many reasons. So everybody gets, they're not on the same place in the course anyway, right? So it doesn't matter. So this is very important to understand. Very, very, very important that you can join anytime. And, yes, come on Zoom. It's kind of a part of it. It's not absolutely essential, but it does help. If you're now really stuck on not coming on Zoom, okay, then you can email me the stuff and all this, but I'd prefer it if you did come on Zoom. Now, coming on Zoom, I know some people are a bit shy, and one person that I'm speaking to right now who's busy connecting, I'm shy, I'm this, I'm that. Who cares? You don't have to put your camera on. You just have to talk, you have to listen. Yeah, you don't have to talk a lot either. You can mostly just listen, right? Well, because this allows me to share and comment on, and like let's say you have sent me stuff or whatever we're doing, instead of me typing it, right? I'm not a great fan of typing, and my keyboard sticks a bit sometimes. It makes typing a pain in the butt. So anyway, I just prefer not to type if I really have to. Anyway, the point I'm making also here is that it's not a big deal to do this, but there's much value in it, especially coming on Zoom. Because when you come on Zoom and you do the course, what's going to happen is I'm going to send you the links and connections to the course, right? Which you're going to do on your own time. Now, doing a course in the way that I've gone through this, I have videos. I've got a whole in the guides tab. There's a whole section there on how to do my courses and programs, right? I do it differently. I ask kind of a lot from the participant because I am really, really focused and bent on and determined and have a deep intent that any participant gets real and actual value, right? This is what is important. So in order to get that value, this means doing things in a very different and particular way, yes? Which now means that you do things like the RepeatBacks, the takeaways. You build your dictionary of power. You make posts in the groups about what you're learning and growing and so on. As you see, like Cher and Jessica do, for instance, right? They are good examples of this. And they have their own guides in the guides tab, right? So this is very, very cool. This is very cool. No problem if it takes a time to connect here. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm just talking to somebody who's connecting. Don't worry. Yeah. Just come as soon as you can. No worries. No worries. All right. So what I'm trying to say is that, doing this course, there's moreness involved. But it's the doing is the growing, is the change. And this is, one would assume, the point and purpose and intent of doing a course like this is change. But it's also real and lasting change. Yeah, not the change that comes from we read a meme about whatever and, oh, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, that's profound. Wow, that's awesome. But it's just a meme. Yeah, unless you put it into action, you use it, you apply it, all that awareness, that realization, that awesome that you had, it's going to go away. Yeah. So it's important to understand doing makes a very, very big difference. Got to do. So in the way of this course, it automatically involves doing. Coming on Zoom is a doing. Sharing your takeaways, sharing your repeat back, sharing your dictionary of power, getting into detail on it and hearing discussion on it, different perspectives on it. This is what I do. This is my skill. I have a very deep skill for perspective shifting and bringing new perspectives. I won't promise you anything, but I will promise you to provide perspective. That I can promise. This I have the ability to do. Yes. So it's important to understand that there's more to this than just, going through a course, reading it and thinking no, that doesn't really help all that much, right? So this is a very big deal. It's a very big deal to come and do the course. And beside which, if you haven't seen any of the lives, you can go to the guides tab again, the guides tab on this particular course, Freedom from Anxiety and Worry. And you can see there what we've been doing so far. And you can get a feel of it. And, coming on Zoom and doing this course, it's not a stressful thing. It's not a big hassle. It's not a big pain in the bus. It's actually quite a lot of fun, right? At least the way we do things typically, we have fun doing this because, to me, learning is fun and play, right? So it's the same thing. And when we understand this, man, this is huge. This is a huge, huge, huge understanding to understand that learning is fun, if we make it so. And we have to add association. And yes, I was just talking at length with Jessica this morning about association management and how huge it is. And Jessica's going to come a little bit later, and you'll hear from Jessica just exactly how huge this is. Yeah. What a massive, great big deal association management is. How powerful it is, how awesome it is. So that's what we're going to, just happen to be that, it's part of a bigger picture, but you'll hear when she comes. I don't want to give it all away now, right? Just lots of magic involved in this. So this is very, very cool. What I'm trying to say too, or what I am saying, not trying to, is that, please feel free to join. If you want to, just PM me, send me an email. It's all in the links of things, and very easy to do this. Not a problem at all, right? And it's open to anybody. And I'm assuming there are plenty of people in group who are here because you do want to learn and you do want to change. I really want to emphasize, though, that, we do get value from reading the posts. But if you've been attending groups and reading posts, and you're still looking for more, and you're still dealing with the same issues, then maybe it's time to realize that you need to do something a little different. Yes. And that difference is doing something like this. Now, yes, the course is called Freedom from Anxiety and Worry. However, I want to say that in my courses, it's not just what the title is about, right? It's a lot more. In order to be free from anxiety and worry, you've got to deal with things inside you. Number one, you've got to deal with stuff. But you can deal with stuff and not get anywhere. Yeah? So this is like, okay, I want to deal with my debts. Fine. I win the lottery and I pay off my debts. Well, what's going to happen a few months later or a few years later? I'm likely going to be in debt again. Why? Because I didn't pay attention to getting income and being responsible in income management. Yes, and so on and so forth. So my point is that if you don't find a replacement, you can deal with your problems all you like, and this ain't going to help you whatsoever, right? So it's very important to, if you're dealing with things like anxiety and worry, that you have something to replace the anxiety and worry with. Yes. Very, 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 very important. So I'm trying to say, for all the people that are in group and in groups, plural, and, who are reading all the posts and reading the memes and all this, if there isn't real change, then time to do something different. And it's very easy to get caught up by false learning and false understanding, false realizations. Like I said, we look at those memes. Personally, I think I've seen 1 trillion memes by now. And I look at them and say, wow, yeah, that's wonderful. But do they really make a difference, that awareness, that realization? Not really. Why? Because it hasn't changed me. It hasn't become part of my new being. I haven't replaced whatever it is in my behavior that's causing the issue. So I haven't actually changed. I've simply had an awareness. An awareness is a false belief in change, that, or at least a realization, right? It's a temporary awareness. Unless I take that awareness and put it into action to apply it, that realization will just come and go, right? So realizations are very fragile. They kind of can fake us out, as it were. Now, of course, a realization can lead to life change, but that's only if it's followed by action, by application, by implementing the realization. Yes, the realization alone on its own doesn't mean much at all. That's very, very important to understand. Very, very key. So this is what, doing a course, that's, with me at least, makes a difference. And it's not just you're going to learn to deal with anxiety and worry. You can come and do this course simply because you're interested in life change. And anxiety and worry, you'll get some specifics on anxiety and worry, which is useful for understanding how it affects others, which is always good, right? And the more you understand others, the more you understand yourself. So you can come and do this simply because you're looking to learn more about the tools of change, the tools of replacement, and there's tons of it. I mean, the first module, it doesn't really deal with anxiety and worry directly. It deals with it indirectly. And this is how I do things. I'm very specific and deliberate in this, to understand that there's more going on than simply dealing with the issue. You have to have that replacement. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Yeah, and this is very, very hard. You see it in so many coaches and people who do courses. They want to deal with your problem. And, people who go, they take courses on how to do courses, and they will tell you, that's it. Focus on the problem, focus on the pain point, find the solution to the issue. The things, be specific, can't be too general. Yeah, you can't be, but you have to also understand that if you're going to just do that, you're not really going to deal with the real problem, which is finding a new way of living, finding a new way of being. That's the problem. The thing is just a symptom. Anxiety and worry is a symptom of not knowing how to live. Typically, most people are worrying because why? They think they should worry. They don't know any different, right? They don't have a replacement. This is huge. This is huge. This is absolutely massively huge. Also, I'm going to go over. I'm going to recap. Give me a second here. Sort of pull up the appropriate slide here and share and screen share to where we're at with module 1, right? So the first module of this course is called acknowledgement of what's involved. I have to acknowledge what's involved. If we don't acknowledge it, then we got a problem. Yes, very important. So, because we don't even know what it is that we're dealing with, if we don't acknowledge what's involved. So there's quite a few things that are involved with acknowledging what's involved. I mean, first of all, we have to acknowledge there is a problem. I don't acknowledge I've got a problem of some kind, well, then nothing's going to happen, right? I mean, some people, they are warriors and they have anxiety, but they've got too much ego to want to acknowledge this, right? Oh, me, I'm not a warrior. I'm cool, Yeah, right. But, I see you walking around with a great big frown on your face. It looks like somebody, plowed a trench there in your forehead. Well, okay. Yeah, I believe you. You're not worrying. Reality says a little different, dude. So you go and tell it to somebody who might believe you. Yeah. Okay. But the point is, you believe your own nonsense, and that's a problem. If you don't want to acknowledge this thing, but of course people know inside, deep down. And why don't they want to acknowledge their problems? Because after a while of denying it for a long time, they get stuck in that, and now the ego kicks in, and then they end up with not being able to face and deal with the awful truth, which is, you know what? I've been avoiding this. I've been bullshitting myself. All right. Now, see, awful truths. Very important to understand awful truths. Very, very big deal. So this is the second point here. Now, this ability to face and deal with the awful truth, is this not a life skill? Well, just take what's wrong with, politics, regardless of where your politics are. Most of the problems that we have in life come because why? People don't want to face and deal with the awful truths. So you have stuff that build up over time, and Yeah, you know what? Our water system in our town, it's not really good. It's getting old. It's sucking. Well, we don't really want to do. Same with electricity. The grid. Yeah, well, it sort of sucks, and we have blackouts. But the awful truth is that it needs replacing, and replacing costs money and time and energy and effort. That's the awful truth. But people don't want to face this, so they just put up with it and put up with it, and it gets worse and worse and worse until eventually, like in some places, it completely crashes, and the people sit without water, or they sit without electricity or sewage or whatever. And I'm just using these as particular examples, right? This is a societal thing. But of course, the same applies for ourselves, right? We don't face and deal with the awful truth. So, and then it crashes on us, or it really causes problems. And we so used to denying it and avoiding it and ignoring it, we don't even realize what it is anymore because we've hidden it so far away. So we have stuff. It's like, man, I don't know what's going on, but sadly I can't use the stove. Well, because I've denied the fact that the electricity system sucks and I never wanted to deal with it. See, now suddenly I can't figure out why my stove's not working. It's like, hello, well, assuming you have electric stove. Anyway, my point here is dealing with and facing and dealing with the awful truth. Two different things, facing and dealing. Awful truth, right? Ability to face and deal with it. This is our life skill. It's not a problem-solving issue. It's not a problem that we're dealing with. No. Yes, indirectly, yes. But it's a skill we're acquiring that allows us to get to resolution. Yeah. So yes, we have to acknowledge we have a problem, but then we've got to do something. This is step one, typically with is getting to do something, is saying, well, I've got to face it and deal with it. Because if I'm not willing to deal with that problem, which is an awful truth for the most part, then I get stuck. Then I'm too afraid. I don't want to go there. I'm like, I don't want to acknowledge that I've been an idiot, and all sorts of crap comes into it, right? So this is a ridiculous life skill. This is an empowerment skill, regardless of whether you have anxiety or worry or not. This is an empowerment skill, right? This is about really leveraging your honesty, your self-honesty. This is about taking action, etc., etc. So it's a profound life skill. I'm trying to make the point for anybody who wants to come and do this course. You can come and do it not because you have anxiety and worry. It's a bonus that you'll understand more about it, but you'll understand thinking, you'll understand feeling, you'll understand believing, you'll understand relationships, you'll understand psychology. You can apply this to any problem, right? We just happen to be dealing with anxiety and worry as a focus here. But it doesn't matter. The skills that we are going to use to deal with anxiety and worry, these can be used in everything. These can be everything, right? So this is huge. Yeah, yeah. 1 second. Somebody's struggling to connect here. Let me just deal with them real quickly. Just reboot your modem. There we go. Oh, see what I mean by typing? Man, typing sucks. Well, for me anyway. That's why I like to be on Zoom. Who knows what happened to my fingers? Hey. There we go. All right. So facing and dealing with the awful truth, this is a profound life skill. And this is how I tackle whatever it is that you want to learn. Learn the life skills, come from the top down. I can go and learn a particular skill. Okay, so, I've got a problem, I'm working construction and they want me to use the jackhammer. Fuck, crap. I don't know how to use a jackhammer. Well, I guess I got to go to jackhammer school, right? Well, I don't know what jackhammer school is exactly, but I imagine in some place there's a jackhammer school. That just sounds like you're learning to be a jackass to go to jackhammer school. But that's not what I mean. No, I mean to actually use a jackhammer. You got to go and learn to use it. But I can do this and learn to use a jackhammer. Now, okay, I come the next thing and I need to learn to use, the foreman says, dude, all right, well done on the jackhammer, but now, I need you to do power washing or I don't know, whatever, deep hole drilling or whatever the hell the thing is in that you go, oh, well, shit, I don't know how to do this either. Well, I got to go back again to school. Now, what happens if that construction worker went to power tool school where they taught him to use power tools and to understand how power tools in general work? That way you learn to use power tools. You come to a new power tool. Well, I've learned how to use power tools. Well, they all got a lot of similarities. This is it. It's like when you learn driving. I don't learn to drive a Ford and then learn to drive a Chevrolet and all this. Some people do this, believe it or not. They learn to drive their specific vehicle, right? And they can't jump into another car. It's incredible. I mean, you think this is stupid what I'm saying. I actually had this when I was a child. My friend got hurt, and his mother had her vehicle was in the shop, and she had to drive her husband's car for that day. And so we have to take him to the hospital. Now he's bleeding, right? She gets into the car. Oh, this is a Ford, but I drive a Chevrolet. And there we were, stuck. It was unbelievable, right? The stupid, I just wanted to smack this woman. It's like, come on, really, seriously, you're an adult and you have this idioticness. But that's how some people learn. They learn specifics. They don't learn the abstract. So learn to drive cars, learn to use tools. This is, to me, how to solve problems. You can address the specific problem, like with a construction worker and the jackhammer, but that doesn't teach you how to use power tools. Go to power tool school. This is what I do. I am power tool school. This is what my courses all are. All right. Yes, we are using the jackhammer of anxiety and worry to give us a connection to learning power tools. But really, at the bottom line, sharing power tools. Yes, a little bit more specifically focused, fine. But still, it's a power tool. Facing and dealing with the awful truth is a power tool. Acknowledging our problems, that's self-honesty, is a power tool. Yes. So all of these power tools, power tools, power tools. And we want to do this, understand this, be aware that you want to come from the top down, learn the abstract, the overview, the grand thing, learn how to learn, like learning how to use power tools. Well, all of these things that I'm sharing are power tools, yes, and part of doing courses with me, doing RepeatBacks, doing takeaways. Well, there's 2 power tools right there, and these are power tool categories. Right? They enable you to learn overall. Then you create a dictionary of power. Well, this is a list of all your power tools. Yeah. So this is really, talk about another power tool, right? Dealing with habits. Not just understanding what habits are. No, dealing with them. Right? I can understand all day long what habits are, but still I do the same old nonsense every day. Well, my going to university and having a degree in habits, how has that helped me change my habits? It hasn't. Yeah. And I see this literally. People go and study psychology and they're still all messed up because they don't understand that understanding and having knowledge in your head doesn't necessarily make for change. I literally saw this with my psychology professor when I was at university. I didn't stay at university for too long because I was too disappointed for this. This was one of the profound reasons that people were sharing information and it meant nothing because they didn't share application. Right? They didn't know how to actually apply that. I mean, literally, the psychology professor, it was like a big joke. It's like, dude, this guy really knows his stuff about psychology, but personally, he's a mess. Right? All the students would say this. It's like, what the hell? Same with the philosophy professor or whatever. It's like, dude, you got all this talk, but what are you personally? I want to see you demonstrate usage. Now what you're saying is useful. Otherwise, the stuff is just interesting. Yes? Without application, it's all meaningless, right? So power tools is about application. Dealing with habits, it's about application. Yes. So if you don't have this ability to deal with your habits, you can know everything there is about whatever your thing is you want to improve, resolve, replace, and nothing's going to happen unless you're able to do this because you're just going to fall back into your old patterns, right? That's why people stay in therapy for so long. Or one of the reasons. The other one is inappropriate emphasis, but okay, it's also they're not focused on application, dealing with habits. They just fall back into the old patterns over and over again. So they fix the precise temporary problem, but they don't fix habits. And so the person just goes back and they just replace one problem with another one. That's it. So very important here to understand this. Very, very important and critical. Huge deal. So again, one of our power tools, dealing with habits. You see, and look, every time I got a little section, and then at the end of it, there's some tasks and exercises. Why the tasks and exercises? What's their point? What's their purpose? Application, right? These tasks and exercises give you an opportunity to demonstrate to yourself that you can apply. Yes? So self-proof. So one of those power conceptions that go in your dictionary of power. Self-proof is absolutely critical. Right. We come to the next powerful tool, investing in remedy, replacement. Yes, it's no good to understand your problem if you don't have a remedy. And also that you have to invest in that remedy, which means invest is a doing. Yes. You're putting energy into it. You're getting inside it. Very, very important. 1 second. I'll continue in a moment here. I just want to remind somebody. Let's see. Are they on? Well, maybe not. They asked me to remind them, and I kind of forgot a little bit. But, well, not right now, but anyway. All right. There we go. Okay. Hopefully they'll come and join. They don't want to come on Zoom. They just want to be in group and listen and comment. But all good. All good. All right. Wonderful. I hope I see you. I hope you see it. They weren't online, so. Let me get back to sharing. Investing in remedy. This is critical. This is critical. That investing, which means, you're putting time and energy to it. And okay, this is a free course. Actually, by the way, it's important if you are doing courses, you're really serious, that you do invest. And sometimes if you put some money into things, you got some skin in the game. Yeah. Like free people. Yeah, they're free people doing this course. Well, where are they? Yeah. Okay. I know one of them can't make it. They are very serious. They take this very, very seriously, and they want to make every effort to be here. They're invested, right? And they can't be here. They got an appointment, and they're still at the appointment, but they're gonna rush back and all this. All right. So they're invested. This is very important. Sometimes we need to leverage ourselves a little bit. And that's why I recommend on my course for coaches on how to be a coach. One of the things is you need to charge. Not because you need the money. Well, yes, I do need the money. But also I need to charge you from an ethical point of view because I want to give you best value. And when you're paying a little bit, you're invested. Yes. So I understand this, that you can use payment to leverage yourself because, in my bigger programs that take a longer time where, I can't really afford to do them free because, well, they just take too much time, right? I make sure people pay ahead of time for this reason, that they're invested. Because then if they don't come, they don't do the work, they don't do the repeat backs, the tasks and exercises, all the stuff, they feel like they're wasting their money, right? And nobody wants to waste money. So it's a little bit of pressure. And we need this sometimes because, well, we're in habits and we can be a bit lazy. We're in the habit of laziness, all this, right? So invest in remedy is not just time and energy. Well, money is energy. So I guess, it's just another way of it's a method of quantifying energy. So invest in, understand that you need to invest, not just your attention and time, but also sometimes a little more. And you do it because you leverage. But know that regardless now about the money part, I'm just saying that sort of an aside here, but to know that you need to invest. This is key. If you're not invested, you're not getting anywhere. Right? As you're just going through the motions and it doesn't mean anything, right? So invest in it, invest, and know that it is an investment. And investment's why I use that is very specific and very deliberate in my usage of this word invest, because invest is an action I take now to get a return on, to get a reward later. Yes. So an investment is something that you do, and over time, it builds and grows and stuff happens because of your investment, and then you get some reward, right? So an investment is a over time thing, and the things happen all the time. It's not like you get, you're going to get returns all the time that you invested, but they keep growing as you go along. So sometimes you get an investment and you have to wait and then you get a payout at the end. But typically with investments, look, the day I put my money into the stocks, that company's starting to grow, and I can start getting dividends and all this immediately, or at least in the short term. But also it's a long-term thing. It builds, right? So there's short-term and long-term rewards and benefits from investing. Yes, it's an ongoing process, but it's a process over time. That's the point of investing, right? It's reward over time, because you've done something specifically in order to get the rewards. You're not just hoping for them out of nowhere. Right? No, You've done something. You've made an investment, and that investment is time, energy, attention, doing the exercises, application. Yes, and if there's money involved, that's also, that it's an investment in leverage for yourself, right? So don't think of the money as, oh, I'm just paying. No, think of it as a leverage on yourself. That makes it much easier to pay your coach. Yeah. Well, and they gotta eat too. I mean, as much as we'd love to do this, I know I speak for most coaches that I know. We'd love to do this for free, but we don't have that luxury, unfortunately. We'd like to have it, but we don't. Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, Jessica. Well done. I'm glad you're here, Jessica. I'm just going over, doing kind of a recap over the tools that we've gone over so far. All facing and dealing the awful truth, changing habits, acknowledging the problem, and investing in remedy. That's what we did last week, investing in remedy, right? And you are like profoundly invested. I'm most thrilled at your investment. You invest in, you're putting time into it, you're putting energy into it, you're putting your full attention to it, and you are committing to applying everything that you are learning and growing and understanding, right? Instead, and to
Yes.
understand that understanding itself is a doing. Yes.
Yes, very, very much so.
Yeah.
It's been very enlightening and amazing, to be
Yes.
honest.
Yes. 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 We're just having so much fun. We're just having so much fun. I mean, we had our Zoom earlier today. Jessica's coming on private Zooms, which is available to anybody who does the course. Yes, we do it here, but you can also come privately. So, we can make that arrangement. So if you want to. So we're doing this too. So it just shows the investment here. We're getting double bonus from Jessica. It's two. Brilliant. We're going to get joined by somebody else too. Okay. Brilliant. Oh no, they say no, it's not happening. All right. Well, sorry, Michaela. I don't know what to say. I have no idea why it's not working for you. Shame. She's trying to come on, but it won't work. So, all right. Blah. Let me just say blah there. I don't know either. Okay. Yeah, we can do next time. Absolutely. No problem. Yeah. All right. Brilliant. See, people who try. If you don't try, you don't make an effort, nothing's going to happen. Right, Jessica?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, very key. I see a lot of people in who want to change, who want to learn, and they're like, and they have all these excuses and feel sorry for them, and they think they make an effort. Dude, I'm sorry, but or do that either way. You think that you're making a big effort, and you think it's difficult, but you have no idea what some people have to go through, to do things. Yeah. Just they have problems that you're not even aware of. Like in this case now, the simple thing of just connecting to the internet and Zoom. For whatever reason, this is a big issue there where they're at. They're in another part of the world. Yeah, stuff is difficult sometimes. Stuff is difficult. All right, hang on. Let me just tell them, that I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. So, oh, different person. All right, somebody else is working.
It's difficult, but not impossible. And here's the thing, is it's so easy to say, I want to do this, but also be stuck in the, well, I'm scared to do it because it might be hard. It might hurt. There's so many emotions that I have felt doing this there, however, when I look at the bigger picture at this, I have had so many aha moments
Yes.
than I ever would have expected. And, I was scared at first. I'm not gonna lie, I was very scared at first when I started doing this. 'Cause I'm like, oh, this is gonna be tough. This is gonna hurt. But no, it really isn't. Once you start to apply it and once you actually, do the work and really take your time on it and to soak it up, it's so amazing. There's not near as much like, hurtful feelings or any other, what we would perceive as negative emotions. There's so many different aha, and oh my goodness, I never thought about it that way. It's amazing, even doing it on your own. It truly is amazing. And I am not gonna lie, I was one of those people that was I was on the fence for a long time. And then when I started to actually apply it to my daily life and everything that I do, not just in when it's needed, um, there's just so much more. Your days become brighter. There's a veil that's lifted, essentially.
Yes. All right. So this is today in our session earlier. Our big theme there was a whole bunch of things.
So we can't hear you. Still no sound. It happened when you moved. Okay.
There we go. You hear me now?
I hear you now.
All right. Okay. It's not as good quality, but see, you've got to have a backup plan when you do this stuff, people. If you're going to do lives, make sure you got two mics, because your mic can stop working just there. There's a kink in the cable of the mic. You see, it got damaged, and I think it just decided now it's going to stop working. Yeah. So, all right. Oh well, time for a new one. I did like it though. It was very clear mic. It was really good mic. Anyway. All right, so we'll have to use now I'm using the mic on the camera here, so it's not always as clear, but you can hear me, and that's what counts. So I was saying that we spoke about, we started, and you shared some dictionary of power entries. It was very cool, and we got into association management because I wanted to go through all of them, but because there's so much to association management. But this led us to should. Now, what Jessica was saying about the pain of coming and dealing with stuff, right? The anticipation of pain and stress, right? That's like it's part of anxiety and worry, right? That we are worried and anxious about potential pain, right? But this didn't happen. But I want to say that it's not something that you can always expect. Some places that you go to, or some people, or some courses, or some therapists, they have this idea that like no pain, no gain. Yes. Well, I'm sorry, that's absolutely not necessarily true. Yes, sometimes that works, but there are other ways you can do things. You don't have to have pain in order to get gain. It doesn't mean that you can't get gain from pain. I'm just saying you don't always have to have it. So the way I do things, especially to deal with traumatic things, because didn't you just share a major trauma, a couple of them in your life before? Right?
Yes.
And it was no big deal, right? But this is part of, sorry to say, I have to kind of give myself a little bit, say, I don't mean to be egotistical, but it's part of my skill. It's something I do very consciously and very deliberately. I have a whole bunch of tools that I employ in order to make it non-painful and not a big deal, right? So when you now giving testament to this, but I just wanted to make sure that somebody listening to this Doesn't think that, oh, well, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to go and take a course and I was so afraid of the pain and it won't be there. They might be a bit disappointed. Yes, that's what I'm just being cautious about, Jessica, that you were saying something that happened particularly in our thing. It doesn't necessarily happen generally, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's what I was pinpointing, is that particularly you had a way of making it less painful for me to talk about.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this is a good skill that I have. I've really worked very hard to do that. And in the course I have for coaches, which also applies to individuals, by the way, because it's learning to coach yourself, really, which is a very powerful way of things. I mean, the first slide in that coaching course, the very first one, it's a quote that says, "The client is always you." Oh, it's a quote for me, but doesn't matter. It's still, the client is always you. Very powerful understanding, right? So that's what we're doing here. I don't want to just go and have solutions put onto me. I want to know how to apply them myself. Again, it's the difference between going to jackhammer class and going to power tool class, right? I spoke about this earlier. I'm just utilizing it for the video, right? I'm saying, again, when you learn to drive, you learn to drive vehicles, right, Jessica? You didn't learn to drive a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Toyota or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do this in life? Yeah. So this is what I'm
Very
about.
true.
I'm teaching life skills, not how to deal with specific instances of problems. That's typically what we do. We learn to drive the specific when it's problem solving. We deal with a specific problem. We don't learn how to problem solve. We don't learn how to think. We don't learn how to have conceptions. We don't learn to have replacements. We don't learn to build a toolbox of life tools. Yeah, and that's what we're doing. Yes, Jessica?
Yes,
Yeah.
building your own tools that are specific to you, and that is something, it does happen during
Right.
this. I've learned so much of like what works for me, and that's what I pull from,
Exactly.
is what resonates with me.
Exactly. And you learning tools that you can apply in pretty much any situation, not
Oh
tools
yeah,
that only deal with a specific situation, right? So
exactly.
yes, like you had a traumatic situation. To get resolution on that situation, that's one thing. But to learn and understand and get this broader, bigger perspective that we did get, this applies to all the other traumas in your life. It wasn't the only one, right? And it will apply potentially to future problems and also how to avoid them, understand what they, so you end up with peace of being because you learned the overview tools, not just how to deal with that specific problem. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is something that, I didn't think about prior. And then, when as we were going along, there was a lot of thought provoking, things that were said. And then I ran with it. And I'm like, wow, okay.
Yes. Yes. We had fun. It was really awesome. Really, really, really cool. Okay, so I want to, instead of continuing our conversation because there's so much context there and it was very deep, I want to come back to anxiety and worry. The course here. I started off, while I was waiting for you, and others can't make it today, so it's just you and me. Other people were trying to come, but they couldn't. Right? They're working and I couldn't get the internet going, and I don't know. I'm not sure what all. The reasons are, but I trust they're good reasons. Okay. So I want to continue here with, am I screen sharing? No, right?
No, you're not screen
Okay,
sharing just yet.
there we go. All right. I want to continue with where we at. Now, I don't think you've had a chance to get to the next section, right? Last one you were on was, oh, here's somebody now. Here's somebody now. Who's this? Oh, just who I was wondering. I was just about to say, I wonder where Sheila is. Must be something going on with Sheila. And yeah, she is. Speak of the angel. I want to say speak of the devil. It's a crap way of saying it. Why can't we say speak of the angel rather? Right? Well, speak of the angel, and yes, she is. Right?
Yes.
Change our habits. Right? See, application of what I was talking about earlier. Change your habits, people. Simple little things like this. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Hello, sure. You just perfectly in time, which I think you knew somehow, but all right, we'll give you benefit of the doubt. Is Sure connected yet? Let's see.
Yes,
Right.
I am. Good morning. I
Oh,
just
there you
was
are.
sitting
Good
quietly
morning.
back
Good
in the
morning.
background.
Yeah, good, glorious morning to you. Yes, most excellent. I was just
Yes.
saying, speak of the
Good
angel,
morning.
and here she is, because I was just thinking of you, and I was about to say, I wonder where Sher is, and then you came. So brilliant, brilliant. I'm pleased to hear, Sher. I'm really pleased to hear. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
I,
We have
you know,
something.
since everybody was late today, I spent the first half an hour essentially going over, not a direct recap, but looking at the course from the point of view of doing the course. And I was kind of talking to people in the group in general to say, you know, come and do the course. What are you in the group for? This is a free course. Aren't you here to learn and change and grow? Well, come and do it. And it's not necessarily about anxiety and worry. Yeah. You're going to learn all sorts of other skills, whether or not you're dealing with anxiety or worry. Well, if you're not,
Nailed it.
you're going to learn how other people deal with it, right? Go ahead, Jessica.
Yes.
Jessica? Oh, I thought
Yes,
Jessica said.
yes. Oh, I said nailed it. That's why because I started originally taking this course for anxiety and worry and how to manage it, and there's so much more that I'm learning on top of that too. So, and it all
Exactly.
interconnects with each other.
Exactly. And that's what I was explaining. I was explaining the way I do courses, the way I approach learning and growing. Right. And this is not something that's come about idly. It's not something I read some book. I went to a seminar and now I'm trying to share it with everybody else. Right. A lot of coaches like this, literally, they go and do a seminar and they think they're an expert on it because they really connected with them and they, all right, I appreciate your enthusiasm. But you know, expertise comes from application and stuff. All right. So there's more to it than just being a flash in the pan expert, right? The big courses of this. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I spent my entire life focused on the mechanisms of learning and growing. How exactly do we learn and grow? How do we make it into change, into getting real value? That's what I want to understand. I want to get lasting value and usefulness. I don't want to just have the stuff sit in my head. That's useless to me. Right. So I'm very focused on this. So in what I've come to understand and the way I do things is that if you want to actually get this change, you have to apply. And in order to apply and solve your problem, you need to have life tools, not just problem tools. Yes. So we need to develop the ability to problem solve, not just to deal with our specific and particular problem, right? Again, it's like the example I'm using here is to learn to drive a car. Well, I got to drive the car and I got a Toyota. Well, I learned to drive a Toyota. Now, if I do that, it's a silly example, but like I said earlier, I actually know this to happen. But in life, though, we tend to think that our problem is the Toyota or the Ford or whatever, and we don't look at this abstract. We don't conceptualize it and learn to drive vehicles and cars. Now, you might learn to drive a car, but if I were to put you on a grader or a forklift or something, would you be able to drive it? Maybe not, see, because you also learn to drive cars, not vehicles. Yes. But if you abstract a little bit, you say, well, you know, this thing, it has to have a go and a stop like any other thing. It's got the steering wheel. All right. It's got a few other levers because you got to move the forklift up and down, but you can still learn to do this, right? You can extrapolate from what you know. That's a life skill, the ability to extrapolate, the ability to conceptualize. That's what we're learning. We are learning power tools of life. These are incredible, incredible, incredible power tools. Yes. I can't emphasize enough how this is. So it doesn't matter what course you do, you're going to learn these tools. I can't really separate them out. That's usually typically, you know, start off with Way of Impeccability, which is all about these tools, right? Sure, you've done Way of Impeccability. So Jessica's doing Way of Impeccability, even though she doesn't know it. Everything we talked about today, right? Association management, isn't that a prime key tool from Way of Impeccability? Yes. Habit management, energy management, mood management. Yes. Right, Sher?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, I think Sher said she had background noise. Yeah.
I do. That's why I'm keeping myself on mute.
Oh, we don't hear it, by the way. Zoom has a built-in filter for background noise. So we hear nothing. We absolutely hear no sound. Yeah. So that's very cool. I mean, we just hear you talking, which is, yeah, it's very cool. So I'm just saying, look at all those association mentions. They come from Way of Impeccability. I mean, we really focus in on them, right? I mean, we've got a whole session there in one of the modules. You know, there the modules are broken up into individual sessions or chapters, you could say, and on mood management and energy management, right, Sure? So big deals, big deal. By the way,
it is.
for
By the way,
just as a power tool, yes, we took all of these conceptions and we make them utilizable by packaging them. And the analogy I use is like we would create this pyramid of of knowledge, this pyramid of understanding, right? Where all these different understandings and awarenesses go in, like association management, energy management, mood management, and all this, right? Time management, all of this. So in your case, right, I looked for a singular, one specific conception with which you could apply it in the particular situation that you needed to apply it. And in your case, right, sure, that conception right now, it's not always necessarily going to be so, but right now it's tightness, yes?
Oh my goodness. Is it ever, especially today?
Right. Okay. So, and in Jessica's case, though, I said, well, you know, Jessica's got a slightly different thing. Same skills, same underlying tools, but we need a different focal point for a different capstone to that pyramid. So, you know, I was thinking that in you Jessica shared the post that she wrote, right, with you as well in the email there, right? When she started with the burnout. So when I was thinking of this and just knowing Jessica a little bit, it's like, oh, okay, pacing becomes the capstone for Jessica, right? Where association management comes into it, and time management and energy management, mood management. If you think of pacing in the context of like a long distance runner, which we shifted to saying a long distance runner, right, as a new self-conception, right? I want to add to your list of conceptions. Aren't you a life distance runner, sure?
Life distance, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly. So as a life distance runner, don't we need pacing? If we don't have pacing, we you know, you're going to burn out. You rush too fast, like Jessica. This happens to her. She gets excited and enthusiastic. She gets into it full tilt, which is fantastic. I love that energy, that motivation. But you got to pace it a little bit, right? Otherwise, you burn out, you collapse, and you get the end. So the point I'm making, in a bigger point to zoom right out, is that you have a conception that you put as a capstone on your pyramid for your particular situation, which is tightness, right? In Jessica's case, same tools that go into the thing, you know, association manual, all the other tools, patience and discipline and forbearance, it's all in there. I'm just, there's so much. I'm not going to go through the whole list because it's a lot. But you need one thing that you want to remember. I can't remember all those things. There's too many. One thing, in your case, tightness. Because when you say tightness and you say, I need to be tight. When you remember tightness, everything else comes with it. Yes. In Jessica's case,
yes, it does.
Pacing, Jessica. But when she says pacing, that conception, because it's a conception, not a word, not a term, it's a conception. Conceptions are built with stuff inside them, and it's all in there together, right? The conception is a big, large thing. It's open, it's growing, it's connected, it's all sorts of wonderful things. So when she remembers this conception of pacing, oh yes, oh yeah, all right. Okay. Oh, you're right. You know, in this case, well, specifically, what I need to do in the basic, association. You know, I've got this, whatever it is, I've got it associated with that. I have to rush. I have to hurry. It's not actually so. I don't have to. Okay, well, I change the association, and so on and so forth. Right. So the point is that if we have one thing that contains the plenty, it's one thing to use. This makes application very, very easy and simple, right? And also, at the same time, it makes it profound, because when you apply tightness and when Jessica applies spacing, right, Jessica, when you apply that now, you're not just doing one thing, you're going to do all of the things that are included in the pyramid. Yes?
Yes, all of it falls into place.
Exactly. And you now have a way of doing many things simply. It's a very profound understanding of how the brain works, right? Conceptuality is an incredible power. Way-of-Impeccability can be called the language of conceptuality. Different language. This is what we're learning. We're learning this language of conceptuality. We're learning how to use it, how to understand. Very, very, very cool. Very, very powerful. So I just wanted to share that with you, sir, since it was such a big deal, and you know Jessica too. So that you can see, likely you'll click like why pacing would be her key conception for the same underlying terms, power terms, right? But pacing is a fulcrum point for utilizing it. Like in your case now, tightness is. Now that may change later to something else. But you see the logic of pacing for Jessica, yes, sure?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
Isn't that cool?
I do. I think that's really pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just so nice, and to understand this, you know, to find that key point. It's not always easy. Now, I mean, you know, I've had practice with this in trying to do this. That's how conceptuality came about. So, you know, just when Jessica shared, it's like I clicked, you know. So
I think it's wonderful.
yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. So by the way, sure,
Yes,
I call, when we first got together, I called you Show Unbound, right? And using that name, it's just kind of a Way of Impeccability nickname, yes? So,
Yes, it
like
is.
you got Show Unbound, and, you got Sue Unedited, and Robin Repainted, and Erica Empowered, and so on. All right, so I was thinking of Jessica.
Yeah.
What would you call Jessica? So I thought,
I don't know. I've been waiting for this.
Oh, Jessica Exploded.
Oh, that's cool.
I like that.
Jessica Exploded. There you go. So Jessica dash hyphen exploded. There you go. That's just your. So when I quote you in if I add something from you to the program now, I'll attribute it to Jessica Exploded.
I actually like that because it is like an explosion of it mentally. I can see that because for me it's like an explosion of light, and I'm bursting all of the bubbles and all of the misconceptions and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
But it's Jessica Exploded, not exploding. It's a slight difference.
Yes.
So
The
when you
exploding
are
part is
exploded,
basically
right,
the action,
right,
and
the
exploded
action.
is who I
Right. So exploded is a state of being in which, if you're exploded, wow, man, I'm claiming my moreness. I'm connecting to my moreness, right? Yeah. It's like the Big Bang, right? The Big Bang, what was the consequence of the Big Bang? Well, that was the universe.
Yeah.
Yes. So Jessica exploded. It's like saying Jessica went through Big Bang, and now we've got the universe of moreness, which is Jessica. See, you see there's more to the name. These names they aren't trivial names. They're not just like a fun thing. No, there's a lot to it.
I like that.
A lot to it. Yes. Same thing with Unbound. Yes. It is when Jessica, sure, right? So, well, at least I hope so. To a little degree. But you see how Unbound is so appropriate. There's so much moreness to it. Yes. It's too cool. It's too cool.
No, the interesting part is she knows mom. She doesn't really know Cher, just like I don't know Jessica, but I know my daughter.
Right, and that's why I recommended that Cher do something. Jessica do something that may be a little bit sort of odd and awkward, but there's a profound psychology behind it. And this is, I recommended Jessica call Cher. Because Jessica, we don't see Jessica's picture, but she sounds like she's 16 or 19 or something.
She does. Holy cow!
She's a little teeny bit older than 16 or 19.
No, she's never lost that little girl voice nor her little girl face. So
well, it's too magical. But that beauty, that innocence, that this is a profoundly treasured, beautiful thing. And also, it's not something that we need to lose. You have it also, Cher. Your innocence, and it's a beautiful thing. But you're sophisticated and innocent both at the same time, and sometimes naive. But we want to understand the naivety. Just because we get more knowledge and more awareness doesn't mean our naivety goes away. It simply shifts context, because relative to the universe, relative to knowing everything, we're always going to be naive in some way, correct? Yeah, in some way, right? But naivety is also a kind of a quality that happens, right? But when we understand a bit more how things work, then our naivety goes away in some ways, but not all of it. And we want to keep some of that naivety. Yeah, it's very cool to have. So
and so since you've had me start calling my mom Cher, I actually can see her. I truly can see her in a different light, not just as my mom, but as a woman of her own being. And it does add more light to her as a person. And she's her own individual, and she's more than just mom.
Exactly. My recommendation wasn't idle. There was a lot of layers to that. There's even more to it that we can get into another time. But it's really cool. It's really profound. Now, yes, it's also awkward, but again, facing and dealing with the awful truth. Yes. One of it is just we start small incrementally. It's just being awkward. And initially it's a little bit awkward to do. Okay, but then you do it, because it's like a simple thing to do in a way, even though it's kind of a big deal in another way. But you're learning to deal with awkwardness. Also, you're learning to pay attention to habits. We spoke very much about paying attention to what we say, to the actual words, right? So this is one way to bring that habit now into place, right? Because you say, mom, it's just like reflex, right? And you catch yourself, and it's really cool to do that. So there's many, many reasons for doing this. Okay, leverage is sure a little bitty too, but that's also cool.
It does.
All of it, there's method to the madness is what I'm saying. It's really awesome. You know, our simple things sometimes have many big consequences. So this, you know, ability to deal with awkwardness and realizing it, say, well, you know what, it was awkward, but it's not so awkward anymore now that I do. It's like, what was I worried about in the first place? Right. So it's very profound, very profound. We think things are worse than what they are. And once you actually start doing them, you realize they're not nearly as bad as what they do. And this is the magic of capital P practice, to realize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very
The
profound.
thinking things are worse than what they really are causes a lot of stress and, you know, and worry and anxiety.
Yes.
Unnecessarily so.
Yes. Yes. And when we look at that in detail, we realize that we just believed they were worse. They're not
Exactly.
actually
Belief
worse,
is key.
right?
No, they're not. Belief is key.
We just believed in it. It's like, come on, you know, what's your belief based on? Yeah.
You know, something that just hit me.
Yeah.
On the concept of worry and anxiety, you know, when worry and anxiety is putting emphasis into things that really have no emphasis or anything to back it up.
Say that exactly again, please.
There you go.
Okay, so putting emphasis into things that cause worry and anxiety, we're actually putting that, like, we're putting that emphasis into something that has nothing to back it up. But
So
when
we're
you are
emphasizing
when
a
you are,
square circle.
yes, squirrel circle. You're stressing over how to make the square circle when there really isn't anything to back it up to make a square circle.
There is no such
Yeah,
thing as a square circle, but you are trying to implement it. You are worrying about it being real when it's not real. So worry and
Yes.
anxiety, for the most part, is emphasizing the unreal,
Yes.
imaginary. Exactly.
That's why thinking things through to the end is
Exactly.
highly important, because you're de-emphasizing things that don't have anything to back it up with.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, somebody says, yes, but this could happen. It could. Could doesn't mean would, doesn't mean will. It could, it might.
And what's the probability?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Also, right? You worrying about it. What remedy are you doing? Nothing. You're just worrying. This is help the
Nothing.
thing from not happening. No. Caution, on the other hand, if I'm being cautious, I'd shift my worry to caution. Well, okay, now I can do some preparation. I can plan. I can, you know, make alternative plans. Like in my case, you see, my headset stopped working, and I have a backup plan. I've got redundancy. Yeah, I was prepared for my headset not working. See, I didn't have to worry. I was prepared. I did something ahead of time. So when we realize there's much we can do to minimize risk, right? Whereas worry doesn't do anything to change the probabilities of risk. None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it may even make it worse. As we know in life, when you start paying attention to things, you give it energy, you start feeding it, yes? So you could be, all right, let's say you worried about screwing up in your job. Yeah, well, I'll give a better example, right? Again, I used to have a restaurant once upon a time, very busy restaurant. So because I was very busy, waitresses came and went, right? It's just the nature of waitressing. They you know, like short-term account. Anyway, so tons of waitresses. What do the new waitresses worry about? Dropping the stuff, right? Dropping the tray of goods, whatever, right? And lo and behold, because that's all they focused on their minds, what do? They drop the stuff. Because that's all they focus, their brain is worried about. In other words, their worry created the thing that they were worried about. Yeah? I saw this, and after a while, I would, when I saw this, I said, man, this is no bloody good. I can't have these waitresses, the new ones, dropping the stuff all the time. So I would preemptively explain to them that if they worry about dropping it, they're going to drop it, and they got to put their focus on something else. So I didn't say stop worrying. I had them focus on something else. I had to replace it with, and then they stopped doing it. So, all right, life is easy. So I'm just saying, my point is that you are worrying because you don't want something to happen, but you don't realize that your worry may actually cause the thing to happen. Now, this won't always happen, you know, like it's not going to affect lightning strikes necessarily, no, unless you now really get spiritual and get into, you know, all is mind and the world is a description and fluid reality. And yes, I'll be happy to get into that, but not appropriate. Yeah. And nonetheless, in a very simple way, when you worry about stuff like, dropping the tray or screwing up at a presentation or upsetting your boss, simple thing. Think of it from the boss's point of view. Okay, so I'm sitting here in my office being all boss-like. I don't know. How do you be boss-like? Sure, Jessica, you got any ideas? I don't know.
Am I going to be what?
I don't know what a boss
Boss-like?
does. I don't have boss thinking, but all right, I'll just pretend, okay, I'm being very important boss. I'm bored. I'm waiting. Here comes Sher into the office and Jessica. Man, like, what's going on with Sher? She's all worried. Same with Jessica. Now, they're anxious about something. What are they anxious about? They're anxious about upsetting me. Oh.
Yep.
Why are these two anxious about upsetting me? What have they been up to? What have they been doing? What are they doing that they shouldn't be doing that they're worried about upsetting me? Right? You busted before you even did whatever it is that you might do. I already think you're guilty. See, now I start looking for things that you've done because I've got this idea in my head because, well, it's proven you're guilty already. You're anxious about it, right? So now I go, of course, and I find stuff. Yeah, it's too incredible. So be careful about what you worry about, how it might create the problems. I love this with the boss example because I've seen this happen too many times. I see people like at school, they would get into trouble because they were worried about getting into trouble. And then they get into trouble. Like, I saw it in the army as well. Yeah. So be aware, people, that you think you are eliminating the problem by worrying about it because, well, why are they worrying about it, Jessica? Because they
Because
think they should.
they think they should do it. It's should slavery. It's should slavery.
Yep.
Sure,
And should his expectations.
Right. Sure, you haven't heard this power term before, right? Should slavery.
What is it?
Should
Slavery to should?
Should slavery.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's very cool. How many times haven't I spoken about should? Not just to you, but to every participant. I mean, we've gone over should.
Yeah, we had to literally basically surgically remove should from my life.
Exactly. Oh, I got a cartoon for you. I got something for you. Hang on. I'll show you now. So the point I was saying though is that in talking to Jessica, this idea popped into my head. Yes, about shoulds. And I was like, man, should slavery, I mean, this term, this concept, we're really talking about should. I said, man, that's really cool. That's really cool. So I added to my dictionary of power.
I just did too. And that is actually, to me, it's a deep association with the belief of should. There's expectation is closely, I mean, like intertwined and enmeshed in expectation.
Exactly.
Is should.
Exactly. So, this is like too huge and cool, right? I mean, we've spoken about should so much, but that's what you're making the point here. Should is a belief system. Yes.
Oh, it is.
And this is profound to realize how is this belief system. It's too incredible. And how should this connected. I mean, we can have a whole session or bunch of sessions. We can even do a whole course on shoulds.
That's probably, we could, because, and also something I recognize, that was probably the biggest key factor was this belief in should of how I raised my children.
Yes. So the belief in should is very tricky because we believe that we should believe in should and that we should do a should. That's the very nature of it. That's why it's so tricky, right? It's a self-evident logical thing, right? Or supposed it's a self-evident goodness. But there's the problem that this can be corrupted. Yes, like we should help people. Well, that can get you into lots of trouble because you can inappropriately help people and cause lots of trouble. Yes. So many shoulds. You should listen to authority. You should listen to your parents. But what if your parents are all screwed up? Huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, that was the first surgery.
What were you saying about surgery? You had to have this thing surgically removed, yes?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I had to have it surgically removed.
Are you looking at screen?
Yep.
I love that.
That's awesome.
It's in the book.
That's awesome.
It's right at the end of the book. It's like this is for those who don't know my book. It's called The Psychology of Bullshit. It recently got retitled, but
It's
you know,
fantastic.
this is it. And this is each chapter as a cartoon. Some of them even have more than one. You know,
Yeah,
I wanted to just bring a little bit of humor to a serious subject. You know, bullshit is a very serious subject, the way I treat it, because it not only about bullshit, but it's also about manipulation, lying, deceit, narcissism, you know, criminality, all the problems, all the terrible things in the world, they all start.
Uh-huh.
So it's very important, you know, to deal with this bullshit. But anyway, so I thought, you know, I didn't want to have it to be all serious. I thought, well, and I had to especially get these cartoons made. It was actually very difficult to find them, because I know I searched the internet for cartoons that I could use. First of all, there weren't very many that were free to use, and then when I did find them, they were typically too political or you know, too rough in the humor, and you know, they weren't for a general audience. So and they weren't specific enough also. So I had to have them specifically made. But it's very cool. It's very cool. You know, it just lightens up the book a little bit. And
They're
anyway,
amazing.
I enjoy those. So it's very cool to realize that, you know, we can learn through many ways. We're learning through humor. It's very important. It's not the only tool in our learning toolbox, but it certainly is a powerful one, right? And we want
Right.
variety and humor.
Very much so, because humor de-emphasizes the strength of what we believe, you know, what our beliefs are that are not serving us any purpose.
Say that again.
Humor de-emphasizes what we believe, like basically de-emphasizes our belief system that serves us zero purpose.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
I'm impressed, Jessica.
Yeah, say it again, please. Say it again. Just for emphasis.
Humor de-emphasizes our belief system that serves no purpose.
Exactly. Yes. So yes, humor de-emphasizes a useless belief system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
This is a skill.
perfect. I really like that.
It's very cool. It's very cool. So write it down, because
I think humor also needs to go in my dictionary of powers. So here it
absolutely. So Jessica, in Way of Impeccability, there's a particular session on quotes and self-quoting. We want to develop the ability to self-quote. You see Cher applying it, right? When she makes a post, you see a quote there from Cher Unbound, right? This is a skill we learn. But it's not about self-importance or saying, look how clever or wise I am. No, it's not even.
No.
It is a mechanism whereby you make something utilizable to yourself, right? So
Yep,
when
you're
you
claiming
first
it.
said that, right, as you refine it a little bit, when it gets to be in quotable form, it sticks in our heads. Yes?
Yes, it does.
Right.
And then we can remember the concepts a little bit easier, especially when you walk around with as much brain fog as, well, you and I both have.
Yeah.
Many
You both what? Had or
that we had both walked around with.
Had. You said have.
Had.
Oh,
Had.
okay. Well, sorry.
Had. I'm just jumping on it to be particular with your words.
In my brain, it's had.
Thank you.
Well, you know, and that is probably I may have said have. However, I think how I mean it is like in past tense, except it's incorrectly used. So
correct. I mean, you meant had, but you said had. Yeah. I'm just jumping on it because it's important to pay attention to these words, because they perpetuate patterns, right? Habits. See what I was talking about earlier, people? Habits, very important. Anyway, so I'm sorry to interrupt, but you know why I'm doing this, and I'm taking the opportunity to make a bigger point. So continue with what you were talking about, the brain fog that you had. What about it?
Oh, well, when you're walking around with that much brain fog, or like some people call them, you know, clouds, brain clouds, whatever, it's very difficult to find your humor. It's hard to find anything beyond what is it's worse than a bubble. It's like being in a bubble, but the whole thing is filled with fog, and you really can't see what's going on around you. Everything is short, small, micro bursts of, you know, awareness and attention, but it's very limited awareness and attention. It's focused in on the negatives.
Yes.
You guys. Okay.
No, I know. I'm listening, and I do agree with you. Or okay, I understand and I see where you're coming from on that, because personally, the word that I associate that with is detachment.
Mhm.
There's
It could
there
very well be.
you
Yeah.
know become detached, and so when you become detached, there is that sense of feeling of heaviness, the brain fog, like you're there but you're not there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it also, it's been my experience that it blocks information from coming in, and it can by and large block a lot of information that you don't need, that's not serving you, from being released. Um, so what I was talking
Exactly.
about this morning, as you were sharing what you did about the, the different associations, um, and you said, yeah, it just feels like things are starting to clear. It's like a light being turned on in that bubble where you can actually now start to see what's going on around you. And when you start to wake up and see things, you can start to literally clear that fog out yourself. It doesn't have to
Yes.
stay. And it's
Yes.
just because we believe that we need it, but we don't.
Yes.
It's just a
Yes.
protective
Love it.
mechanism.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
brain fog. What power conception? It's a bit of a negative one, but it's a power conception because brain
Yeah.
fog is another way of saying emotion bubble.
Yes, it is.
It's
Yes, it
another way
is.
of saying unintended, inadvertent unawareness.
Very much so.
Brain fog is
Very much
another way of
so.
saying anxiety and worry.
Powerful. That's a
See,
powerful
can
one right there.
associate it
That is.
now. So now,
Yeah. Yeah.
holy shit, brain fog, anxiety and worry is a brain fog. Oh man, yeah. This is
Yep.
another
Yep.
thing
Yep.
we get to later in the course. This is all, there's a section on how, like I said earlier, that when you anxiety and worry, the idea is you think you should because somehow this is going to make the problems less or go away, or it's a way of dealing with the problems. But of course it isn't. And like we said, it can create them. Another way in which anxiety and worry increases risk is because your brain is using its energy and power. Part of its computing power is running that program. And if you need all
Uh-huh.
computing program, well, you're wasting it on anxiety and worry. You don't have it available to actually use. Now, think of this when it comes to athletes. Yes. I mean, we've all seen
Hmm.
performance and top level athletes. If they worried and anxious, Tiger Woods is worried and anxious about making his putt. Well, he's got energy going into worrying, and he doesn't have all his energy needed to make this critical putt to win the championship. See? So when you really look at high performance athletes, they don't worry about making the putt. They relish the challenge of making a critical decision, a critical free throw, whatever, scoring, whatever, right? They relish critical situations because it brings out their best. They don't worry about it. They do the very opposite. They relish. They look forward to it. Relish is the word, right? Very powerful word, relish. We need to learn to relish life. And whenever you're doing
Yes.
anything, learn to relish doing the dishes, learn to relish playing golf, whatever you do, relish it, relish, right? Very, very powerful word. So it's the
Yeah.
opposite of thinking, because now you are leveraging your attention, you leveraging your energy to give your maximum rather than draining it and not being
Hmm.
able to do your best because you're worrying and anxious, which again leads to my point that I'm making is that anxiety and worry increases risk, doesn't decrease. Yes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
increases it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Now it doesn't mean
Well,
that you
isn't it also,
right,
but it
okay,
also, we make it into a habit. At the start of
exactly,
it,
and the habit is brain fog.
yeah, exactly. We just make it, we
Yeah,
make that a habit. I know I did.
yeah,
So I don't want to
right,
say we, I want to
right,
say I did. I
yeah.
relied on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now,
Boy, did
saying
I
we
ever.
is a great way of you have load shedding in
Telling.
electricity. Well, you get
Uh-huh.
responsibility shedding, and when you say we, when you mean I, well, that's responsibility shedding.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I love
Exactly.
your
So
honesty, sir. You
I
do
do like
honest.
that. There's another
You do honest.
dictionary of power term, responsibility shedding. So,
Yeah, it's a
um,
profound thing. Now, anxiety and worry is responsibility shedding. Why?
yeah.
How do you figure this? So, how do you get this?
Well, I wrote about that this morning, Phil,
Oh,
that
really? Oh, wow.
because we have been taught that we should follow the belief of others. I mean, we were taught that. I
Yeah,
taught it to my kids too.
yeah.
What that teaches us, to me, what that taught me was that I don't need to critically think for myself. And if I don't know how to critically think, then I can't problem solve. So what do? I rely on my expectation to look towards the people who taught me these beliefs
Exactly.
to solve all my problems. And then what have I done?
Exactly.
And I've turned myself into the victim. I've attached.
Exactly.
I've made a muck of things.
Exactly.
So,
and you get to legitimately say, but I'm not responsible.
yeah, there it is right there. That's what I put. It's like, okay, well, that just absolves me of all responsibility. It's somebody else's fault.
Yes.
Oh, but no.
Exactly.
I have a role in that because I accepted the beliefs instead of thinking them through to the end for myself. I accepted them blindly.
Exactly.
Because I thought, well, this is how society says I should be.
You bought into it. That's the point. You bought into the bullshit.
Yeah, I sure did.
And that's what we were talking about big time with Jessica. We went over one of past traumatic event, right? And we said, what's to learn here? To learn to unhook from should, which should is another way of saying buying into the system. Yes, you buying into conventionality. You buy into should. Now, this is the trickiness of should, is that you think you should buy into should. You should. Yeah, but if you should on yourself, well, you shouldn't should on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right. So when we think of it that way,
and I'm glad that you guys did go over that, because I hope I think now that Jessica, you're starting to have an understanding of some of my shifts in my beliefs and in my perspectives, that it wasn't any of you guys' fault. None of this was, and it wasn't mine either. I have responsibility. And I understand what I'm responsible for. But that's where it ends.
Responsibility of ignorance.
Yeah.
It's a different responsibility, right, Jessica? You were ignorant too. You were unaware. You were naive. Yes, Jessica?
Yes, very much so.
Right,
and
now,
see.
Oh, go ahead. I have a profound point to make, but go ahead. I can
Go ahead. No, make that profound point. I want to listen.
Okay. So this point of the responsibility of ignorance. I was ignorant and shit happened to me. Really, really profound shit. I caused a lot of profound shit in both of you guys' cases, correct?
Yep.
So what is the responsibility of ignorance? Is it to feel guilty and to feel ashamed?
The responsibility of ignorance? Well, people say it should be, but it's not.
Right, exactly. It's not. The only responsibility that comes from ignorance is your responsibility to learn.
Yes.
That's the responsibility of ignorance. You ended up in bad situations and you caused bad situations because of ignorance. You cannot feel guilty or ashamed. The only thing you are responsible for is to not only learn from that situation, but to keep learning so that you don't do further things that you don't want to do and cause further crap because you remain ignorant. So the responsibility of ignorance is awareness, to learn, to be more aware. Yes?
Yes.
Sure? Yes?
Yes.
This is a profound yes. This is a profound. I want to emphasize this because both of you have dealt with guilt and shame. And to reassociate, to say, it's not that it wasn't my fault. I did lots of stuff. Yes, I bear some responsibility, but my main responsibility comes from being ignorant, being bloody stupid at the time, not knowing, not having replacements. Sometimes I knew even that I'm doing the wrong thing, but I didn't know what else to do. Yes. So this is the point that I want to make. The responsibility of ignorance is not guilt and shame and feeling bad. No, it is learning and growing your awareness. That's what it is. You use those things to leverage you and say, man, if I want to make this right, I've got to change. Let's assume for argument's sake. Go ahead, Jessica. I can hold my point.
Okay. Guilt and shame is the inappropriate, is the inappropriateness of responsibility, of taking on responsibility.
Inappropriate application of goodness.
Thank you. Inappropriate application of goodness, as well as, and that,
exactly.
You're wanting to take on their responsibility, but that's of everything, but that's a false, belief, because that's where guilt and shame comes from, is because you are, inappropriately, taking on that false belief for somebody else.
Yes, correct. You're taking on
Yep.
inappropriate responsibility. Yes, which is an application of inappropriate application of goodness. It's a term we discussed, and it's a huge deal. It comes up in the course.
It's a big one.
Again. Massive, massive, massive big deal. Massive, massive, massive big deal. Massive.
Yeah.
Very, very huge. So this responsibility to learn and grow, this is a profound, profound, profound understanding, right? To realize that this is our responsibility. All right, so I want to talk about shame specifically and guilt. Yes. Now, in your cases, you feeling guilty and ashamed about shit that you had there's nothing you could do about at the time, right? You were vulnerable, you were children, you whatever, right? Lots of things. Even as adults, you were still children as adults, right? You were in vulnerable situations, and people came and took advantage of that vulnerability. But let's assume we've got a case, right? We get a call. Will you accept this collect call? Well, okay. What does that mean? Somebody calling you from prison, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
Jail
right.
or prison.
Jail.
Right. Prison or jail. Right. Okay. All right. I'll accept the collect call. Well, somebody's calling me up. They happen to be, they have internet access, and they're watching this, and they say, yes, okay, dude. So, you say, well, guilt and shame, it's ignorance. But what if you actually did something that is like in Jessica and Cher's case, they don't have legitimate guilt and shame, but I do. I knew what I was doing. I knew that, I wanted to kill this person, and I was keen to kill them, and to murder them. And I knew it was wrong, but I wanted to do it anyway. So, okay, now I feel bad about it. And maybe at the time I thought I probably would feel bad, but okay. So how do I deal with my legitimate guilt and shame? Different question, yes?
Yes, it is.
Completely different.
Can you say to them, well, you shouldn't feel guilt and shame? No, you should.
No.
In this case, you should feel guilt and shame. Now, what is the responsibility of guilt and shame? In the same way as the responsibility of ignorance, what's the responsibility of guilt and shame? Same responsibility. You are responsible, dude. If you want to really remedy your action, you want to get rid of this guilt and shame, the only way you can do this is to change. If you become a completely different person, a person who could not do those things, who could not do them, not possible, then you don't have to feel guilty anymore because you've changed. You're a different person. Let me ask you this, both of you, right? Do you still feel guilt and shame about what you did in your previous life?
No.
Even if
I don't even know
it's dissipating.
That was a different life. That was a different me. I've changed. I'm not that same idiot I was in my previous life.
Right.
I've grown. I've updated. Right. So that's the point. The responsibility of guilt and shame is to change. The responsibility of ignorance is to change. Become something different. That's the way for Mr. Jailbird or Mrs. Jailbird, right? Mr. I don't know, either way, right? Sitting there. That's how you get rid of legitimate guilt and shame, is to leverage that. And the only way you can honor your victim, to really honor your victim and to make their sacrifice worthwhile, is to change, right? So think of the victim who's looking down on heaven and saying, yeah, you shit, you did this and this to me, you murdered me, you raped me, you did whatever. Well, okay, you've changed. All right, now I can have a bit of peace as well, to know that at least you've changed. Yes?
Yes.
So you do something for your victim as well, if you change. Yes, if you really.
That was the same thing that correlates also with my oldest brother and me. Like he's not the same person he was when we were growing up.
Exactly. And not only that, he was not his own person growing up.
No, he wasn't.
So it's like, man, how can I feel bad and I hate this person, and this poor bugger wasn't even himself. It's like, man, that's really is too. Yes, he did horrible things, but at the same token, in his particular case, I have to have compassion. He's not like the murderer who did this knowing what he was doing. So, yeah, you know what? I was going to get paid for this, and it was easy, whatever. Right? They knew what they were doing. There's a very big difference when you getting influence and you buying into should, and you doing something that's horrible because you think you should do it because this is what you've been taught. And those in charge of you are saying, yes, this is what you should be doing. And not necessarily in a direct way, but in the many subtle, indirect ways that they cue it, right? And when you buy into the system. So you can't vote against him because he wasn't him. Yes. He may still know who he is. That I don't know the brother, but still, I'm just saying, right? At that time, from what I understand, he didn't know, he didn't have a him.
No,
There was no him.
no, he didn't.
There was no
But
him.
now
No,
we
he
look
was
at the
just a
flip
kid
side
child
of it.
himself.
Right.
I would say then I look at the flip side of it, and in my situation, there's a should that I'm still working on extracting, which is, you know, the should of forgiveness, not of
Yeah.
myself, but of my abuser,
Correct.
my
Correct.
main abuser.
Correct. Correct.
I am struggling. I do not forgive that person because they did know what they were doing,
Exactly.
and they never
Exactly.
changed.
Exactly.
They
Now,
never changed.
right. So forgiveness is a very tricky subject. It's a kind of a square circle word.
Mhm.
Right? So I'm glad you bring this
Yeah,
up,
it is.
because it's a square circle term, right? First of all, to forgive your abuser who knew what he was doing, right? It was very conscious. He really knew what he's doing. In other words, it's like the guy in jail, right? We're talking to the guy in
Mhm.
jail now, right? Dude, I
Okay.
can't forgive you what you did. Maybe if you change, fine, then I could maybe, but this is different. I cannot say what you did, it doesn't exist, right? That's what some
Yep.
people think forgiveness means. It's like, well, suddenly it doesn't exist. No, it exists, right? You did something that's unforgivable. How do you forgive something that's unforgivable? And some acts are unforgivable. This is the price you're going to pay. So know this. It's an unforgivable act. Okay. Now, there's another part of forgiveness. When a lot of people talk about forgiveness, what they're really talking about is coming to peace of being. Two different things. Yes.
Yep.
To forgive, which is to excuse by implication, which is why some people get upset when they say, oh, you got to forgive your abusers and transgressors, because they assume that forgiveness means excusing. It does not. Yes. So
Right.
in some cases, like in the brother, you can forgive him because, well, you know, he was as much a victim as you, right? You were
Yes.
both victims,
Yes.
right? He was
Mhm.
being a victim in order to victimize you. Okay, so I can forgive him. But the guy in jail, no, sorry, dude, you don't get a pass, right? You're not forgiven.
Mhm.
So this is about, in other words, we get to peace of being, though, right? By understanding you are responsible.
Yes.
You did something unforgivable. I understand that. You chose to do it. This is the price you pay. The price you pay for that stupid choice is not being forgiven. Maybe
The
if you change,
same,
Yeah.
it will change, right?
the saying that is goes, I'm going to forgive you not for your sake, but for my own.
Right, but this is rather than saying forgive. I don't even use this term. I stay away from, because it's such a
I don't either.
it's a square circle. So I say
Yes, it
I
is.
want to come to a point of understanding. And
Yeah.
marvelous quote that somebody shared with me one time that always stuck with me. And it is, when we understand, there's nothing to forgive. This is capital U.
Yep.
Right? When I
Mhm.
really like your brother, you understand with your brother, what's to forgive? What's to forgive?
Well, yeah, and that's something that hit me today, you know, with when I was thinking about that, is that, you know, my oldest brother did apologize to me. And now I didn't have much to say then, and now I know why I didn't have much to say then. And it's because there isn't anything to forgive when he knew no better, you know, himself. So
So sure, would you say
Yes.
that Jessica has a pending action, a pending doing,
Yes.
which is
I do.
calling or whatever your brother and saying, look, when you
Yeah.
shared and said, I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't have the tools to really get to, but now I can. And I'll just share your
yep.
appreciation of whatever you feel is appropriate to share. I don't want to put,
No, that's
but
already in plan. I've already
follow
said
up on
that
that,
after
right?
our meeting.
You've got a pending, something that's pending, yes, this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do it. I cannot emphasize enough, when these things come up, people make a note of it and make a firm commitment, right? The moment we get off this, that's it. You take care of that pending thing, because if you don't, it's going to drain your energy until you do. Right?
Uh-huh.
So these things that come up like this, where you have this realization, oh, wow, okay. Now, it doesn't automatically say you got to do something, but when you think about it, well, duh, if you were to take and follow up, say what you wanted to, would have liked to have said then, do it, man. It's profound. It's very life-changing. It makes a massive, not just for you, but for them also, right? But you're doing it for you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I already contacted one of my brothers. I'm going to contact the other two
Good,
later, you know, here after a bit.
good. It's a peace of being, because you see, understanding, when we understand, we get peace of being. That's how we acquire peace of being, is through understanding. Our understanding doesn't come about of its own accord. You've got two things that go before that, which is awareness and then discernment. Because we can be aware and know there's a problem, and but we don't have discernment to see the layers and all of it. We don't think it through. We don't perspective shift. This is all discernment. Through discernment, we come to understand. Through understanding, we get to application, doing, like in this case, right? You might understand this with what your brother apologized. You understand that I didn't quite respond the way I would have, but now you're going to take the action to complete the understanding. Then you get to peace of being. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's a part of the universe that just, it was, no, you're not ready yet to say anything,
Mhm.
and because you
Correct.
don't truly understand.
Correct. Hey, say again.
Good girl.
Not
Yeah.
ready to say anything yet because you don't understand. See another quote from Jessica. Yes.
Yep. There are.
Ah,
So
very
you know,
good.
I have to say that I'm going to say this, and I told her this morning. I am in awe of
Yes,
this
yes,
woman's intelligence
yes,
because
yes,
because
yes,
she grasps concepts so rapidly,
yes,
It's just
yes.
mind blowing to me. There you go, floating. Because you know, it's taken me more than 2 years,
Yes,
more than 2 years
yes,
to get
yes,
to this
yes.
point. And I
Yes,
get all
I was
excited
laughing.
now
I was
still when I
laughing.
learn something.
Yeah, yeah.
But then here comes Jessica, la 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 la, you know, I've got this nailed. I'm just like,
Yes,
wait, you
yes,
haven't even
yes,
been doing this a month.
yes. But
Oh
see,
no, I don't got
sure,
it nailed yet.
right. But see, sure, it's your
Oh,
intent. When you were struggling and taking time, and it's like, man, I don't get this, and I want to get this quicker. See, you put that intent out there, and well, you know, Jessica's connected to you and all this, so it's manifesting through Jessica. Yes.
that's pretty cool.
Isn't
Well,
that
I'm
cool?
learning a
Isn't that
ton from
cool? Isn't
her.
that too
I'm
cool?
learning a ton from her. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It is.
Uh, talking about a quote, real quick before I forget, when we talked about humor and the power of humor, I've got a very, very powerful quote for you. I love this. This really struck me. This came up as one of those come up takeaways that happen. I was writing about humor anyway. Then the quote is, if it doesn't make sense, laugh, then it does. If it doesn't
Laugh
make
and
sense,
what?
if it doesn't make sense, laugh, then it does. So if it
Oh,
doesn't make
okay.
sense, comma, laugh, comma, then it does. Yeah. Right. In other words, the point of that quote is that if I am able to laugh at whatever the crapola is, it makes sense because, well, I'm laughing, and the thing itself doesn't make sense, but because I'm enjoying it and getting humor out of it, now found some sense, right? So humor,
Yeah.
way of making sense that are insensible, right? The thing still stays ridiculous, but because I'm laughing, okay, there's some sense to it at least, right? So it's a very layered, nuanced point. But that's it, you know, we got to learn to laugh at the crap. I mean, look at some of the stuff that goes on in politics. I mean, it's so beyond absurd. If you don't laugh at it, you're literally going to go crazy trying to understand it. Because if you truly understand craziness, you're going to become crazy, correct? So we've got to be careful of understanding craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, get into that bubble too much. So we've got to learn to laugh.
I think I'm already there.
Yeah. Well, join the club. Join the club. Join the club. Yeah. Well, you know what? I celebrate my craziness like crazy.
Yes.
I do. I do.
You have to learn to dance with the madness.
Exactly. Exactly. Because, you know, this is, we don't know. So because we understand we are profoundly ignorant relative to everything that's out there. It's another form of craziness. Ignorance is just a form of craziness. Yes.
Well, and that's the thing is, if we see craziness as a bad thing, okay, then we are giving emphasis to it unnecessarily so.
Exactly.
And then we become that, you know, we start to identify as that. And
exactly. Yeah.
Really, what good does that get you?
Yeah. So this we tie into the self-conception. We have to be very, 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 very careful about how we conceive of ourselves, because this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Conceive of yourself as crazy, even if you aren't, you're going to become crazy. Why? Because inherently you're honest. So if you think of yourself as crazy, you're going to make yourself crazy so that your honesty is genuine. It's not bullshit. You don't want to be a phony. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and
simple
when
how it
something is
works.
defined as crazy or insane or anything like that, that is essentially a black and white thinking of
Yeah.
somebody else's truth, somebody else's color.
Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. So it's very important to understand this, right? And while we're on this topic of self-affirming truths, it's why affirmations don't work for most people. You see people post affirmations in the group all the time. You got to, this is your morning affirmations. They don't work for most people. Why? Because
Right.
when I go into the mirror and I got my list of affirmations, and okay, I'm reading my list of affirmations. Let's see, wait a second, let me get into affirmation reading mode. I am successful. I am beautiful. I am good looking. I am charming. It's like, oh, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You know, I don't believe any of it.
Yeah.
Right? I just think it's
Yeah.
bullshit. I might become
I can tell
successful,
you.
right? But
No, they
right
don't
now,
work. Not
no,
for me.
well, I might, but to say I'm beautiful when I'm not, it's like, come on, man, you know, I don't think I'm beautiful. All right, somebody else might, but still. All right, I'm trying to use examples to expose preposterousness. My point is,
Yeah.
let's take it in a more realistic way, right? And say, okay, I don't have anger issues. Yeah, bullshit, you know. Well, I don't personally, but I used to have in my past. That's why I know about anger specifically. I used affirmations appropriately. I'll explain in a moment. But if I had said then, okay, I'm going to use affirmations to get rid of my anger, and every morning I say, I'm not an angry person. I don't have any anger problems. I'm just going bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And all I end up doing is feeling like a liar because I know those aren't true, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes to anger specifically, not only did I resolve my own problem when I was a teenager, I had anger issues like somebody else we know, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's why I'm also sharing this example, right? Uh, and I wasn't meaning the two of you, although I might apply to
Nope.
you.
I know.
Right,
I know. I'm with you.
I was a very angry person, but yes, I
So,
definitely know.
so let's finish this whole story that I'm making about anger and affirmations, right? So what I did is I realized this is not going to work. I had to find a different way. And because luckily by then, as a teenager, I already had the habit of thinking things through to the end, right? Because I didn't want to waste my time. And that's how I got to that. Anyway, so I thought about it. And I said, well, you know what? I'm actually making an effort to learn to deal with my anger. So I can't say I don't have anger issues because this is just phony, it's false. But what I can say is that I'm a little less angry than I was yesterday. I'm a little better at managing my anger than I was yesterday. Now, you know, my inner bureaucrat said, well, you know what, dude, you like 0.001% better. But it's still true that you are better, even though it's a tiny amount. Okay, we can sign off on this, right? It's technically true. Yeah, there they go. Now, the next day came and I worked a little bit more on my anger and I had another little tiny increment. Yes. But as I think, I don't know if I shared it with you yet, Jessica, but as sure knows, if you take 1 penny and you go to 2 the next day, and then you go to 4, and then you go to 8, and so on, at the end of the month, you're going to have $1 billion with a B, $1 billion.
Yep.
So exponential change is really huge. It doesn't matter that I start small. The fact of the matter is that in order to get to that $1 billion, you have to keep compounding, right? So when I make this effort and I'm making the effort to deal with my anger, even though it's tiny and small, when I say to myself, and my affirmation is, you know what, I am a little less angry than I was. And then I say, oh, you know what, that's actually true. And then a week goes by or a month or whatever time. And I say, you know what, this is really like, okay, in the beginning, I was, you know, when I said, yes, I'm a little better, it was like technically true. It was only a super tiny little amount. And I was only better because I'm making an effort. And really, my anger hadn't changed at all. But the only thing that had changed was that I was, you know, trying to do something about it, which technically makes it a little bit better. But after a week or a month or whatever, I said, man, you know what? I really am a little better. You know, actually, instead of blowing up, you know, 6 times in a day, I only blew up 3 times. Okay, all right, that's a bit extreme, but you know, for some people with anger, that's really is the case, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really debilitating disease. It's a mental disease, but like any disease, you can cure it. All right, so now they say, wow, I really am a little bit. Wow. Now that moment when you come, where you see some actual real change, this is a big moment because the brain changes. That's an emphasis, right? In that moment, you are saying by implication, we are all geniuses at implication, by the way. We're all geniuses and we don't even realize
Yeah, we are.
we really are. So the implications are, wow, I really have changed. I really have changed. By implications, I can change. I have changed. That means I can change. When you started with the anger thing, maybe I can do something. I don't know if I really can or whatever. You had doubts that you could change, yes? Which is why you never changed before, because you didn't think you could. Same with anxiety and worry. You don't think you could change. But when you get to that moment, you've been working on it, and you do the daily affirmation to say, I'm a little better than I was yesterday. Not that I've solved the problem. No, I'm a little better. Increment,
Yeah.
right? Little tiny points, but they add up, they compound. You get to that moment to say, oh, I have changed. I'm still not at the end. I'm still not at the end of my time. I haven't gotten to the billion yet. I haven't resolved the problem yet. I'm in process still. But this is profound emphasis. I have changed, which means I can change. What's the third implication on that, Sher?
What's the what?
Changed. What's the third implication? The first point is I have changed, and then it says I can change, and then the next implication is I will change, right?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was like, okay, have, can, will. Have,
I
can,
know
will.
questions sometimes they're obvious, but they're too obvious, and then we think it's complicated, and we look for the complicated answer, and the simple one is really what I'm after. So,
I was going through the 3 words.
all right. So it's have,
can, will.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
now,
can I?
Please
go ahead. I was like, can I get in a state where, I guess what I'm getting from the affirmations and why they didn't work for me.
Right. So
and why I lost so much interest in it.
Right. I just wanted to finish the little story quickly. Then you can go on to this, why it didn't work for you. Precisely. So now, as we go along with this, right, now I've got an emphasis that's being reinforced by self-proof, which does what?
It
leverages and emphasizes the emphasis. So you come to believe not only that you have changed as a knowledge, you come to believe and know that you can change. And as you actually change, that belief in can change becomes a certainty that you can change. And now it starts to feed even more on itself, right? The brain starts to change. I have changed, I can change, which means I will change. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy now, because if I believe I can change and I have changed and I can change, if I know this, then if I want to change and I can change, then I will change. Yes. So now your daily practice of practicing habit management now shifts to become habit management. Before you had to deal with the issues dealing with your anger, but as you prove to yourself that I can change, now as you get halfway through this process, and these affirmations, this understanding kicks in, your affirmations change. Now it is, I need to deal with the habit of thing. That's really all that's keeping me in anger, because I've already proven I can change my habit, my anger, right? I know I can. So in order for it to will happen, right? This is me. I want it to happen. And the only thing that's standing in the way is habit. Yes, right. Sorry, Jessica, to have interrupted you there. I mean, I appreciate that you want to add on to this, but I just wanted to have this final connection to make it to habit. Yes. So this is now I'm going to have the habit of these incremental affirmations, which is really more incremental recognitions rather than an affirmation. Same thing, but when you recognize, you emphasizing. So this habitual emphasis now that's true and real, you leverage your honesty, right? And the more you say, I can change, I have changed, and it's backed up by fact, the more you implement this because it's true. And you say, I will change. It's true, right? And because it's true, you make it happen. Very, very key to understand this and to break the habit as well, right? Without the habit, you can have all those realizations, right? Without the habit change. So again, please take your takeaway. Please share, Jessica. I appreciate you being so eager, but just.
Oh, no, you're okay. I interrupted you, so you don't have to apologize for that. But so what I always got annoyed with affirmations. I thought there's this bullshit talk.
Exactly. And the way that they are presented, they are.
Yes. And I think that's because of, myself dealing with so much bullshit and manipulation. That's exactly like how I feel as, doing, as what I'm doing to myself is bullshitting myself and manipulating myself enough to the point where I can possibly just maybe believe it one day. However, all I'm doing by doing that, and this is what I notice that, what thoughts come into my head when I hear that is I'm just brushing it under the rug. I'm not actually dealing with, you know, the problem at hand. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not recognizing the little amounts of improvements that I have made. Instead, I'm brushing it under the rug and ignoring it and pretending that's not even there versus, you know, which is also just the affirmations for me. It's bullshitting myself. And
responsibility shedding.
Yes.
Classic responsibility shedding. Oh, I'm doing my affirmations every day. Look, I'm doing something. Okay. I don't have to face the awful truth of actually doing something about it. I can pretend that I'm doing something, but I get nowhere. But well, okay, I can pretend. Responsibility shedding. Right. Bullshit. Yes. Very powerful takeaway, Jessica. Very, very, very cool point. Very cool point. Yes. Yeah. That we can fool ourselves into thinking we're doing stuff that we don't really want to deal with and deal. Yeah. Jessica?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, sure. You had something come up.
Oh, no. I was excited listening to you two in this conversation because self-proof is just self-proof to me is one of my favorites. I was just writing it. It's one of my favorite tools in my toolbox.
Right, exactly.
Why?
And
because
real.
for one, because
being real. Yes, that's what Jessica was talking about, right? Being real. What you were talking about when we spoke responsibility shedding. It's all about being real. If we're not going to be real people, I'm talking to those listening to this potentially, right? Since I started on that theme, to those imaginary people who aren't listening, but we hope they are listening. Again, I'm not doing this because I'm looking for followers. It's like, man, you know, this is a bonus. If you want to take advantage, do it, right? And those who do, fine. So if you don't, that's fine. Anyway, the point is that if we don't learn to actually deal with bullshit and to call bullshit, and we don't get real, which is what dealing with bullshit is, right? Bullshit is precisely about not being real about stuff, right? We're making the real into unreal somehow because we think somehow this is going to make things better. It's, again, responsibility shedding. What an incredible term this is, responsibility shedding. Yes, it's too potent. It comes about in so many things. Same thing with the affirmations, the way you said to do it, right? To bullshit yourself, essentially. Sorry, dude, it doesn't work. If you're a bullshitter, maybe, and you want to buy into your bullshit, but all you're going to do is make yourself into a narcissist.
Yep.
That's the end result. If you actually succeed in the way affirmations are, to say, you're just going to succeed in becoming a bullshitter, which is what a narcissist is, just a real expert bullshitter, right? They're not just bullshit everybody else, but they bullshit themselves. They buy into their own bullshit. They start to believe it. And it's, man, they don't ever truly believe it, but they for the most part do. So, sorry, no, I don't want to turn myself into a bullshitter. But now I want to say this. Same with you, Jessica. Always the affirmations, the way they pushed out at us, they kind of irritate me because, man, you've got a sort of a good idea here, but you're going about it the wrong way. Use affirmations the way I was suggesting. That make sure they're true and start with a tiny truth. Right, but the tiny truth, the only way you're going to get to that first tiny truth is to actually bloody well do something. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
There's the key.
Exactly.
Without application, it's all meaningless. Then
that's right.
Your affirmations become a mechanism which assists your doing. You start it small, and then you reinforce that. You emphasize your doing, and you're emphasizing the truths that come about from your doing. And you're working with your process of your brain, not against it. The way you said the affirmations, people that keep pushing affirmations, law of attraction, all this stuff, right? You're doing it the wrong way around. You've got some truth there, but you're going about it inappropriately, right? Classic example, inappropriate application classic application of inappropriate application of goodness. So again, some people that are pushing these affirmations, be aware that they just do it because it's popular and people will do it, and they're just going to suck your money, right? It's, dude, you're putting all your affirmations on me. Well, affirm and manifest some money for yourself. You don't have to teach me how to do it. You can just do it for yourself, right? It's like, hello,
that's why I kind of like the doing for me, the motivation for doing. Well, there's a lot of motivations, but I really like to look at it as a collaboration with the universe. When I'm actually getting up and doing something, then it just feels really good. Because, okay, I got a partner now.
Yes. And it's a collaboration with the universe.
Yes, it is.
Collaboration is 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, how many ever ones, but if it's you mean the universe,
Yep.
well, 1 + 1 equals more.
Yeah.
When I collaborate, I get more than I would have gotten on my own and you on your own, right? So let's say we're doing things on our own. Let's say it's making money. Each of us on our own, we can make, I don't know, 1 million. But the two of us together will make 1 billion. And that's for argument's sake, right? I hate to use money examples because it gives a false impression of what's important in life. But it's a good example here, right? It's quantifiable. So it's very important to understand that when we collaborate, we get more than we would have individually got as a group, right? We can add up all the things as a group. But look at our collaboration here now. Stuff's coming up, magic. We get these magical quotes and conceptions and new power terms and new understandings, new awarenesses. If I had sat there on my own thinking about all the stuff, okay, some of it would have come because I'm very thorough and deliberate, and I think, and I know for you guys, you have this stuff, right? And this is the takeaway that Jessica started the day with, or yesterday, she sent us emails of a takeaway. It's the stuff she came up on. But the more we collaborate, more comes from more, and it compounds. It compounds. So collaboration.
I probably have been remiss in not expressing how much more I am finding and uncovering and discovering, not only about myself, but about Jessica, about the program, about everybody that's involved. We're this whole entire collaboration. But the more I take and look at everybody's stuff from an overview, I'm learning a lot more. A whole lot more than I would if I were to just sit and read it by myself.
So sorry, say again. I thought you were done and I was speaking. Say again.
Oh no, I just said I'm learning so much more than I would if I were just to sit and do it by myself.
Exactly. Now, this is the point of collaboration, right? So I wanted to make this point earlier, that in our private session this morning earlier with Jessica, right? You know, so we've done some of it. I did some way of impeccability therapy, right?
Yes.
So, right, Jessica, I mean, I didn't use the term at the time, but this is the way that, you know, when we spoke about the things in the past, the specific traumatic event, right? That you got an example there of way of impeccability therapy, which is very, very opposite to the therapy. And you writing an article, it's still in process, of why your therapy did not serve you, correct?
Yes, and I'm still working on that. Yes, I'm finding more and more things.
Yeah. So I want to make the point out there, anybody watching this, that you don't have to come and do the course. If you've got a specific something that you want to deal with, I do way of impeccability therapy. You can come for one session. It's not a problem. You can.
That's right.
DM me, email me, whatever, and we can do, and it's very, very effective. Right. We had one session about that issue, Jessica, right? And you have major resolution. You have peace on it. It's like everything's changed, right? It happened very quickly, right? You didn't have to spend 10 years to get resolution on it. And I literally know people who spent 10, or actually it was 15 years actually, right? And they went about a specific incident to get resolution on. We did way of impeccability therapy, and that's it, right? I'm not promising instant cures, but I'm saying though that it is possible to get resolution fairly quickly. Now, I mean, this morning it built on the previous 2 sessions, but sometimes you can get that resolution in one session. It is possible, right? I'm very, very cautious with quick cures, because yes, you may have resolution about something in the past. That doesn't mean that you're going to live your life, you know, with joy and happiness going on. You're just going to have resolution about that incident. 2 different things. So don't confuse it here. But, you know, some people are really hung up about traumatic events and they can't learn to grow and live. They can't live their lives because it's always draining their energy. And in this case, you know, you've been there. Sure, you know, you've been there too. When you do get resolution, it's liberating, right? You can explode like Jessica exploded. So very, very powerful. Very, very powerful.
So one term that I have learned, or that I thought about, was appropriate application of self-recognition.
Appropriate application of self-recognition.
Well, there's another one for the DOT.
Yes. Appropriate recognition of, appropriate application of self-recognition. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appropriate is very important. We want to have self-recognition. But if I go in the mirror and I do my affirmations, I'm wonderful, I'm brilliant, I'm a genius, you know, I can do anything I like, you know. Sorry, this is might be a genius, or at least I might be smart, but it's inappropriate self-recognition. Yes, I'm not a genius. I might become a genius, but I'm not right now. Right. So this is again. So this, and it's the application of self-recognition. Right. So when we recognize our moreness and we do so appropriately, we can grow into it. We can merge with our moreness. This very powerful term, right? Merge with our moreness. Yes, we want to claim it, but we want to merge with our moreness. This is appropriately claiming self-recognition. I am moreness, and I need to appropriately claim it so that I don't overestimate, I don't have false claims, I don't leverage and inappropriately and ineffectively leverage my honesty, right? Because if I inappropriately claim things, I'm going to now leverage my fear of being dishonest, and I'm going to make the things not happen because I don't want to be a liar. See, I have to leverage our self-honesty. So it's appropriate application of self-recognition. Very important. Very powerful power term.
It also keeps you from being a martyr.
Please say again.
I said it also, it's this appropriate application of self-recognition does keep you from, it prevents that martyrdom.
Yes. Yes. It is martyr cancellation policy. Absolutely.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, we don't want to be martyrs. Yes. Exactly.
No, I was there for a while. It's no fun.
Yeah, no.
So
again, a martyr is just self-importance run away with itself.
Mm-hmm.
Look how wonderful I am. I'm a martyr. Look how dude, sorry, you're not doing this because you really think that, this is something you need to do and good. No, those people, they don't say a word, they just do it. But you're just looking for the recognition to say, oh, you're so wonderful and all this. And you actually will martyr yourself, but it's ego. It's ego that's causing.
It is.
Yeah,
that's
so
where a lot
bullshit.
of that codependency.
Bullshit, in other words, right?
Codependency slides in. Yeah.
Say again,
that's when you get into, I said that's when you get twisted up into codependency. Exactly. And into massive attachment issues. It's no good. Yeah. So I really like this appropriate application of self-recognition. That's
it's huge.
Really
it's huge.
Lightweight.
It's huge. It's huge.
Hey, I said tight.
And Jessica,
look at that. I said tight.
Right. So make a post in group where you put appropriate application of self-recognition with all the hyphens and put it in quotation marks because it's a quote from Jessica. It's also a power term, and write a little bit about it, right? Just give a little extra explanation, give a bit of detail on it, right? So it's your, in other words, what I'm asking you to do is that's what you're going to put into a dictionary of power. You're going to make that heading and then you're going to do the extended explanation, right? But I'm asking you to just take this entry and make a post of this particular entry.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
it's just cool, just to kind of, lock it in, to honor it, and it's just so cool. I mean, you're gonna probably, do takeaways on the whole thing as well. So there's more stuff to post about, but this particular one, just quick and easy, simple thing. Very magic, and a good point for us to end on, right?
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, just so that we can end on an emphasis point on something profound. It's like, man, this is really something to think about, because it's again that recognition, right? Anybody watching this, you can recognize the profoundness of Jessica's power conception, because that's what it is. It's not a quote, it's a power conception. It's also a quote, but it's a power conception. It's a conception. And in order to make that conception valuable, recognition is only a part of it. Don't be fooled by your understanding and, oh, that's really cool. Oh, okay. Tomorrow, I want to understand and I want to see how much difference it's making in your life tomorrow. Tomorrow, you've forgotten all about it. Why? Because you didn't make the point of applying it. If you really take the intent to apply it tomorrow, you're still going to be thinking about it, still going to be in your mind, because you're going to be doing it, right? And you're going to be changing habits and stuff, right? So the habit of inappropriate application of self-recognition, right? That's the habit that you have to change. Yeah, which is basically the habit of self-bullshit, no?
Yes.
Okay, that one I got to put in. Self-bullshit. Yeah, that one's cool.
Exactly. There's a psychology of bullshit. Yes, I'll plug my book here. See, go and read my book about the psychology of bullshit and you'll understand.
Somebody needs to.
It is such a profoundly devastating thing. I cannot emphasize, man, it makes my heart cry when you it's terrible. Terrible. A real tragedy. Never mind Shakespeare and tragedy and the old Greeks were tragedy. This is the real tragedy. Self-bullshit.
It is.
This is the demise of, our ability to claim ourselves individually.
Exactly. Which is, go back to your power term, which is your power term is what again?
Appropriate application of self-recognition.
Exactly. It's another way of saying what you just said, right? Before that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just as I was saying, perspective shifting. See the magic of perspective shifting, right? The facets of the diamond. You come at things from different angles. The more facets you have on a diamond, the more light gets reflected and glorified. And this is what makes it sparkle and shine and explode. There's all those facets which are perspectives. So we want to learn to facet life, which is what perspective shifting is, faceting life, yes, or an issue or an understanding. It's all, you use perspective shifting, which is our discussion. All of it is faceting, perspective shifting, faceting, same thing, yes. Let's in more light, which leads to elucidation. It all connects together. Yeah, too wonderful, wonderful. All right, so what's your power term again? Before I say goodbye and we end, I want to end on that power term. Say it again, please, Jessie.
Appropriate application of self-recognition.
Appropriate application of self-recognition. What is that term again, Sher?
Oh, appropriate application of self-recognition. In other words, it's self-bullshit and it's an expectation of should.
Correct. It's unhooking from self-bullshit. Appropriate application of self-recognition is when you don't bullshit. It's unhooking from bullshit.
Right. Okay. Unhooking from self-bullshit. Got it.
There we
Well,
go.
you know what? She's going to have to post on it so I can get it right.
There you go. I love it. It's so cool. Power terms are power, people. This is not called power term for nothing. They power because they lead to real, actual, lasting freaking change. Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Appropriate
They
application of self-recognition, which is celebrating your mourners. So on that magical point, Jessica exploded, show unbound. I'll see you guys next time. Yes.
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 Goodbye. Thank you. It's been a
Goodbye.
great time today. Have a good one.
Too magical. Bye-bye.